are not coming back, and now these people don't have the insurance they need because they're poor. And they work those coal mines, and they're sick. The veterans are sick. The veterans are broken down. They're not getting what they need. If you can answer any of that, I'll sit down and shut up like Elizabeth Warren.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's first town hall meeting since President Trump took office featured an overflowed crowd of protesters just outside the venue. Republican lawmakers across the country who chose to actually hold town hall meetings instead of avoid them were met with similar passion. Subjects were wide-ranging. Here is Congressman Steve Womack of Arkansas at the end of a rambling answer to a question about investigating Russian interference in the election.
You guys just want to investigate everybody. Was something...
Joining me now, Dave Weigel, Washington Post national political correspondent, who's been covering town halls across the country. And Dave, you've been to multiple town halls in a day. Somehow I've been tracking your travels. You also covered a lot of these in 2009. And I'm just curious what your first sort of takeaway from covering a bunch of these right now. What is going on out there?
It's a good question because the comparison is not glib at all. Sometimes you hark back to an example and it's hard to find parallels. There are tons of parallels here. The organization, the angry reaction to the organization from a lot of people in conservative media. This is very similar, where people realize that they've kind of been locked out of power. The election didn't go their way, and they have quickly found out that the way to get accountability is to show up en masse and to ask questions that make people uncomfortable and to tell very personal stories. So a big difference this time. It's pretty simple. There were people who had theories of what Obamacare would do to their lives in 2009. There are people who've lived with Obamacare and have stories that I've yet to see a Republican member of Congress. I saw Jim Jordan yesterday. I saw Chuck Grassley today. I've yet to see them really answer it in a way that satisfied people.
That's really interesting, right? So you're dealing with what people actually have as opposed to sort of the thought of what it could be. The president tonight tweeting out, so-called angry crowds in home districts of some Republicans are actually, in numerous cases, planned out by liberal activists. Sad. That's not an inaccurate quote. It just doesn't strike me as there's no big sort of nefarious conspiracy here. It's, you know, activists and organizers get this sort of thing done.
Well, anything is planned. The president's rallies are planned. Actually, with our money, unlike a lot of the indivisible rallies, where taxpayers are helping to organize the things the president does when he goes out in the country. These rallies are fairly ad hoc, and maybe I'm not a good enough reporter to see the strings behind everybody, but I've spent a lot of time before and after events. I just, after an event in Iowa Falls today, went to the same cafe by accident as about 15 women who had just been there. Two of them knew each other. The rest of them just kind of said, "Oh, you were at this too," and they exchanged names. They made plans. It's very organic. It's very easy for people to follow up. More so than 2009. I spent a lot of time in 2009, before and after town halls again, watching people get trained by Americans Prosperity or Freedom Works or the groups that were trying to organize them top down from D.C. There's something similar this time, but it's much more distributed, much less controlled from one central location.
So you think this is actually more organic, or at least more bottom up in terms of the way it's being organized than what you saw back in 2009?
Yeah, and that doesn't contradict what Republicans are saying as they get angry that these people are showing up. It's just hypocritical, because they were correctly annoyed when Democrats tried to say by dint of you organizing before this, you were doing something wrong. I will give Jim Jordan credit. I'll give Chuck Grassley credit. I asked Jim Jordan, and other reporters asked Chuck Grassley today, are these protests legitimate? And they both said yes, they're legitimate. It would barely matter if they weren't, because the people have a right to answer questions. I've noticed in the crowds, when you talk to the conservatives showing up, and they're outnumbered, but they're supporting their Republican members of Congress, they're very worried and paranoid that there is something nefarious going on. In Iowa, it's kind of fun to watch, because Iowans have license plates that tell you what county they're from. And in Iowa Falls this morning, they're conservatives assuring me that everyone at this thing had driven up an hour and a half from Des Moines. You can see on their license plates they did not. And I'd ask people what church they went to, etc. No, they were not that engaged with this. I've met, I'd say, only one or two people out of dozens of conversations who had ever been to one of these town halls before this year.
All right, Dave Weigel, thanks for your time. Appreciate it, man. Still ahead. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.